Hi, Daria. I want to first thank you for allowing me to come in and interview you today because, as a realtor, I do have a lot of sellers who have questions about their rights in property. And so basically, I would like for you to shed a little bit of light on what a couple's rights are in property during a divorce proceeding.
Okay.
All right. So, what are some of the common issues that you see in a divorce proceeding when real estate is involved?
Well, I see a lot of issues, but the main one that we see in a divorce as it relates to real estate is what is considered premarital property. Sometimes people come into marriage with property owned prior to the marriage, and they're married for a long period of time, and so the characteristics of the marriage, of the property can be characterized as marital as time goes on. So dividing marital property and establishing what is considered premarital is one of the biggest issues we see when talking about the sale of a home in a divorce action.
Okay. And so, do you have any suggestions to help make the sale of the property during the divorce proceeding as smooth as possible?
Sure. Obviously, the best thing that people can do is communicate, but usually when you're dealing with divorcing spouses, communication is already an issue. I think get an attorney, be represented by counsel. As it relates to the sale of the home, my biggest piece of advice would be to lay out with specificity all the details of the sale of the home. So, for example, in your settlement agreement, you want to maybe go ahead and pick and name a realtor, such as yourself, in a settlement agreement to avoid fighting over who's going to be the realtor for the home. I would also list out things such as an agreed upon appraisal for the home to avoid a fight over that down the road, because ultimately we're talking about who's going to get a certain percentage of the profits of the home. Lay out who has control of the sale of the home.
Okay.
So, for example, if someone has left the marital residence but the house is to be sold, there's normally a spouse remaining in the home. Is that person have control of the sale? Because obviously, as you know, as a realtor, you have to bring in potential buyers to the home and show the home. So I would list out all of those pieces of the puzzle regarding the sale of the home in the document to avoid any conflict down the road.
Okay. And so, another question that I come across a lot is does Georgia recognize community property?
Yes, in Georgia we call it marital property.
Okay.
It's different in different states, but we do recognize marital property.
Okay.
So, for example, anything purchased in the home, during the time of the marriage is considered marital. A home, a car, even a television set, for example, would be considered marital property. Funds earned during the marriage by either party are considered marital. As it relates to the marital residence, for example, you can have both parties working and paying the mortgage.
Okay.
That makes the home marital property. Sometimes people get confused or do not know that, hey, well, my husband's on the title, my husband's on the mortgage. Do I have a claim? I've been paying for the mortgage. I've been depositing my paycheck, for example, in the joint account. I have a claim, don't I? And of course you do. The court considers that marital property.
Okay. And then, what would you say are some of the most common mistakes that people need to avoid during this whole process when trying to sell a property?
Well, one would be rushing in and signing a settlement agreement without addressing with specificity all of the aspects of the sale of the home, such as agreed upon realtor and those types of things. I think the other thing is people lose sight of the big picture. If there are children involved, if you're talking about the sale of the home, put your children first. So, for example, if you're agreeing to sell the marital residence but your kids are still in school, maybe you would put in the agreement that we won't sell until May, to the end of the school year, or whatever the case may be, because the court's going to put the children first no matter what if there are children involved. If there are no children involved, my recommendation is, again, to look at the big picture. Sometimes clients fight over things, and they pay more to fight over a mattress than they would to buy a new mattress.
Right.
So think of the big picture, figure out what works best for you and your spouse, and if you can't communicate with your spouse, your attorneys can handle that for you.
Okay. Well, I mean, you certainly brought out some great points today, and I'm sure it's going to spark more questions from our viewers. So please let them know, how can they get in touch with you if they need a consultation or have any other questions?
Sure. I can be reached at the Wise Law Firm. I'm located in Marietta, but I handle cases in all the metro counties. My firm phone number is 404-973-9308, and you can email me directly at wise, W-I-S-E, at wiselawfirm.com.
Well, I would like to thank you for tuning in today. We know that divorce can be a tedious process, as you just heard, the different scenarios that can come up. And hopefully we've answered some of your questions today. Tune in for the next segment about investment. How can you make that a smooth transition? Until next time, thank you.